hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Oh, happy hockey season. It's here. That's right. Thursday night, the Wild plays host to Columbus in their opener. On Saturday, we got the Kraken, and then there's a 7-game trip. I don't want to talk about the scheduling because the scheduling is stupid. But yes, the whole show is here. It's Judd. It's Jessi Pierce. It's AJ. We are going to have a round table of questions. And the question is going to be, do you think that this team, the Wild, as we get set to open the season, is a playoff team? We are going to talk about the Jesper Wallstedt extension, and we are going to have 3 predictions from each of us regarding the team. But before we do that, it's 2 things. It's October. Hockey season is here, and Halloween, isn't that spooky? It is here as well. Woo, hey kids. So here's what we got. My friends at Park Tavern, St. Louis Park, the corner of Louisiana South and Highway 7, Saturday, October 26th, from 1 to 3 p.m. Free candy for kids all day specials for the adults on select taps and cocktails as part of their Halloween party. Then at night, Cosmic Bowling, 9 to close, 21 and over event. 4 bowlers is the lane minimum at $30 per person. Includes a 16-inch pizza with 4 toppings for the lane. There's also a costume contest in which the best couples costume contest, Pierce, can win up to $300. So take the hubby to that. Reservations strongly suggested. parktavern.net or 952-929-6819, 952-929-6819. And of course, if you just want to go in the bar and watch hockey games at any time, Park Tavern, the official sports bar of the Sports Dad, Louisiana Avenue South and Highway 7. How are we doing, kids? Are we ready for the start of the season?
Yes, so ready.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the Face Off on Prime?
I've not watched it yet.
I saw the first episode, and I'm clearing time in my schedule here the next couple nights before the season opener.
It's a good appetizer just to get rearing. Like, here we are. Let's go.
I saw the McDavid clip from the locker room, a couple of them. The one after they lost the cup to Florida is just so hard to watch. Is it Draisaitl's just crying?
It's no, McDavid's crying.
Okay, I thought Draisaitl was too. But anyway, I can't wait. Just for a reference point, what's the time commitment?
First episode I watched was like the Willie Nylander is like what's going on with him in the playoffs type of thing, and that was like 44 minutes or so.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, they're close to an hour, some of them.
Okay.
Like, I think the captain's one where they've got a bunch of different guys was like 56 minutes. And I think there's 6 episodes total. I have yet to see the McDavid one, which I think is the last one. And I'm about halfway through the 5. I was a little hungover on Saturday, so it was the time to
not
watch
you,
it.
Pierce.
Yeah.
Never.
I know.
You sure about
it's
that?
also kid-friendly, kid-appropriate for the most part, so it worked out well. I was like, we're watching hockey.
Well,
stop talking.
McDavid's not, though, because that one scene that I saw that was clipped onto Twitter,
dig in,
where he's yelling, this isn't blah blah. So anyway,
he said AJ is now going to have to go back and scrub that.
Great more work for me.
Oh, I slipped up, didn't I? I'm sorry about that, but I mean, it was so good. Sorry.
Everybody watching, you're going to see a quick cut on the video.
That's why I dropped an F-bomb. I'd like to apologize. I told you guys I've done a lot of content. Pierce is sick, so I mean, this show is off the rails already. battling through a cold.
Hey, but you know what? I'm battling through because that's what hockey players do. That's what we come to play. I'm here, not a day-to-day. It's a day-to-day situation, though. Let's be honest.
Exactly right. Okay, before we get into if this is a playoff team or not, and then our 3 predictions, 3 thoughts. Jessi, what did you think of the decision? It wasn't a surprise, but Wallstedt gets a 2-year, $2.2 million contract extension that kicks in next year. He's made the roster for opening night, which, he could be sent down immediately after that. But what did you think this signified? Did you think it signifies anything for this season, even though the contract doesn't kick in, or how do you interpret this decision?
Yeah, I mean, it just mostly alleviates the worry that he'll get offer sheeted because we've seen those dramatics unfold and play out throughout the offseason, which could happen to Jesper this year. I have no problems with it. I think it's a good number. It's a fair number. Good for both parties included. I'm sure for Jesper, it gives him that solidarity that this team is really ready to move forward with him. If they, if he didn't already feel that already, carrying 3 goalies says a lot about what they think of you and how much they're going to value you. But yeah, I like it again. From terms to future. It's a good way to, again, get across that offer sheet worry that could possibly pop up next year.
Age, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy that I think has been perceived as like the future. He's the wall of St. Paul, not just the name of, like a play on his a play on his name, but like
it was quick.
Everything we have seen from him and like read about him, he fits that like design of this is your guy in net that you can rely on for, whether it's the next 3 years now or, if you extend him after that up to that 8-year max. This is a guy that I think once you get to that kind of summer of 26, 27, before that 27, 28, you're going to see probably a pretty big, unless something goes terribly wrong and he just like totally falls flat in net when he does get those chances, the guy that will be in the between the pipes for the Wild for a long time. So I'm fine with it. It's a nice little bridge deal. It keeps him in RFA for the next time negotiations come around.
Right.
I don't see a problem.
All right, so let's start. Is the 2024-25 Minnesota Wild team going to make the playoffs, Jessi Pierce?
Yes, as a wild card. I mean, they'll bump in there again. They're very bubbly, if you will. But I liked what you saw throughout most of preseason from the good lines. And yes, take it with a grain of salt. Take what you will. I'm not ready to say I don't see a loss on the schedule from them trouncing Chicago of all teams. But no, I mean, you're seeing some really good things. Everybody's healthy.
Right.
Hopefully they can continue to move around the lines. I'm sure you guys were all thrilled to not see Ryan Hartman up at that top line center. Marco Rossi there, right? Like, yeah. We're getting some depth. We're getting some scoring. So I think if you can get all 4 lines generating right out the gate, then you're going to be good. So with that being said, yeah, why not? You can sneak into those little playoffs on the wild card. I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable saying that, I think, about this Minnesota Wild team.
What do you think?
I thought I was going to be the only one a little optimistic here. Jessi comes out of left field. I expected a no-go from the Pierce household. I think they're going to sneak in. I've been very intrigued from what I've seen in the playoffs, and like going through my bold predictions for the season that we're going to go over here in a bit. I have kind of almost talked myself into believing in this team a little bit more, which maybe is going to be a fault of my own, but like, you're going to have the 3 mainstays in the Central Division. It's going to be the Avalanche, the Stars, and the Jets, I think, are those top 3. And I think Nashville, just through their additions, are probably going to take that top wildcard spot over anybody else in the Pacific, and especially in the Central. And then it comes down to like that last spot. I think the Wild are going to outperform the Kings a little bit. I think they're going to outperform the Kraken a little bit. They're probably going to sneak in, immediately get removed from the playoff picture. Don't get me wrong. But they're, I think, going to probably lock up some playoff hockey this year.
So what I've got is, in the Central, I've got Dallas top 3. I've got the Avs top 3 still. And I actually have Nashville top 3. In the Pacific, I've got Vancouver, Edmonton, and Vegas as my top 3. And then I think it comes down to, for the wild card spots, the Kings, the Jets, the Wild, and don't sleep on Utah HC, which I think is going to get a boost. Like, first of all, they've improved, but second of all, there's just that boost, right? That comes like it's not a bad team. And so I have a lot of questions about the Jets. Like, the Jets could take a huge step back. The Kings, I'm started with age. I'm like, they could be fine, but not.
I think with them missing Doughty, he's month to month now. I think that's going to take a big toll on their backside.
It's not good. It's not good. So I am very much on the border right now, but I'm coming around to saying yes. I've been no for the last, since last season came to an end. Now, this is assuming guys stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like Foligno, who, he's beat up to hell, right? Spurgeon, who looked great in the preseason game, his first one that Jessi and I were at against Chicago, looked great. But, health is a huge factor here. Goaltending is enormous. But I'm coming around to thinking that the Wild very well could be fighting the Kings and the Jets and Utah for that last spot and could grab one of those 2 spots. I don't think that is as ridiculous as I would have thought if I had said that in June.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think I was in the same boat as Age had mentioned. He was expecting a little of my pessimistic Pierce to come out.
Never. I like
Never.
it. Pessimistic
I
Pierce.
say it with a smile. You like that? I love alliteration. Love it.
Oh, it is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a writer.
Right. Now that
Writers
I've
love
seen
alliteration.
now that I've seen a little bit from this team, I'm like, okay, they're not as stagnant or as dry as I was worried they would be. Returning the same roster, right? Returning some of these older vets. I was just a little nervous heading into camp with what that would look like for them. And I think that's what made me not be so keen on the idea of playoffs. But yeah, I think I'm confused about the Jets. That's my biggest question mark too, Judd. I have no idea what's going on there, which is sad because I love Winnipeg. I do. I have this
it's a
little
great
affectionate heart for them.
Totally with
but,
you. And I love their goaltender, but like what's in front of him, and I just have a lot of question marks there. So yeah, and look, the Kings too. Like I don't.
I think they're taking a step back.
So if they take a step back, the Jets do. The Wild can ascend a little bit, and again, I will say this: I think Utah, partially based on roster improvements and partially based on a move that's going to just give the franchise a boost. Yeah. I think they're going to be competitive now.
Yeah,
but I mean, it should be competitive for the last wild card spots, and I could see health provided, goaltending provided, that the Wild does contend and possibly sneak in, which would be a great story if nothing else for the Flower. In his last year, you would hate to see Marc-Andre Fleury go out back to back and not make the playoffs to end his career. So
yeah, I'm curious to see how much, because we've seen it now, like in the past 5 years, 6 years, with the new team belief. Nobody wants us, so let's rally together and be an unstoppable force or something like that. This is the same team. It's just a relocated, but I want to see how much that boost, because it's the same thing almost like. You get a new coach. You get a brand new city,
right?
A brand new fan.
And they did make some trades. Like they're going to spend now too. They didn't. They were so notoriously cheap.
Yeah,
they're spending a little bit too now. So
and they're calling it associate
NHL arena.
They're calling it
associate. Why are they saying
associate
instead
captain? Of alternate? God, I love how hockey people get just up in arms about this situation every single time. Because I made the mistake of saying assistant one time, and people lost their minds.
Alternate.
Yes, lost their minds.
And where did associate come from? Associate captain. So the Utah club named who?
They gave I think, right?
Yeah. They gave an A to him and said it's not assistant, it's not alternate, it's associate. And what I want to know is, where did we get associate from?
I mean, it all means the same thing.
I know, but it's just like a job. It's like I'm the associate to the captain here at Utah HC.
It's fancy. It's fancy. I like it.
Sounds like a law firm almost.
I can't believe that you
His
said
name's
assistant.
Lawson Krause. Yeah, the whole thing. It's a whole
Lawson Krause. It does.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to 3 predictions regarding the Wild season in a second. But before we do, a quick shout out to the exclusive personal injury law firm of Judd's Hockey Show. That would be our friends at Nicolay Law. Nicolay Law knows that when you or a loved one gets injured, your ordinary life's going to come to a stop and things are going to get complicated. During that time, insurance companies are likely to pressure you. They don't care if you get better. They don't care about your bills piling up. They don't care that you may not be able to work. But guess who does? Russ and his team at Nicolay Law. They've seen every play the insurance companies have, and they're going to make sure you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay. Right there, Russ is going through that tunnel to come out in a court of law or onto a football field and defend you. Start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com. Give him a call, 1-855-NICOLAY, 1-855-NICOLET, if you need to consult with the law firm. All right, so let's go to predictions now. Jessi, we'll go Jessi, AJ, and then me. Go around the room, give me 3 hot takes, predictions, however you are feeling. What are your boldest statements, I guess, about the Minnesota Wild in 24-25?
Are we naming all 3 at once, or are we taking turns?
No, we'll go around the room.
Just making sure.
Then we're gonna get upset if we don't like one and start fighting before we get to the next one.
That's fair. I would like to give an update on Bill Guerin and I's status. We fist bumped yesterday. There was no additional
he likes
banter. You. Yes, I'm just saying.
But he's giving you crap. With his busting your chops means he likes you.
I have a notebook of things that I'm going to say to him the next time he says anything about it. So we'll be prepared.
I love how you've thought this out. So if you didn't
keeps me awake at night.
This, Bill Guerin was on with us about a month ago, and we're talking about the salary cap and contracts. And Jessi brings up the Draisaitl and pending McDavid contract as problems for the Oilers cap. And Bill proceeds to mock her and say, boy, yeah, that must be a problem to have those two signed. Now, in all candor, she had a decent point, but the problem was AJ and I bailed and he immediately started to laugh along with Garen. So it was 3 against 1. And since then, it sounds like he has just been relentless in bringing this up. Now, he does like you. That's good.
Yeah.
But so you've got an entire notebook now?
Yeah, I think things to say, like, oh, this will be a good one.
I love the idea of you, like, you guys crossing paths in the press box, whatever. And he says, hey, Jessi, something makes a comment about it. And you say, Bill, hold on. And you whip out a notepad.
How big's the notepad? Like, can you carry it around?
It's a notebook. Yeah. Oh, so good. Cross it off, then and move on until the next game.
Yeah. God. Same to you.
Yeah.
I take that.
Brilliant. Speaking of Bill Guerin, though, we'll kick it off with that one then. My prediction for the Minnesota Wild. How about that segue, boys? Bill Guerin
and the Bardown Beauties, you're a pro.
And the Minnesota Wild
take it.
Will acquire a player by Thanksgiving. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but they will acquire a player by Thanksgiving, whether that's trading away a current roster player or whether that's a pick. I don't know. I'm not going to get into those weeds of specifics, but they will have a new name, a new face, not just a recall, not just somebody from Iowa, completely relocated over here to Minnesota by Thanksgiving. I just have that sense. Again, don't know how it gets done. It's kind of what Bill Guerin likes to do once in a while.
Are you leaning towards like a winger or what position? Just like
I'm not, it's a new guy, probably a fourth liner.
So do you think they're going to lack character again? I hate to say that. That sounds very mean. Do you think they're going to lack some spark again?
I think
that's
it's going to be the
spark.
I think that's you go back to Revo. Exactly it, right? You go back to Revo, and I think Bill Guerin, again, doesn't want to waste any time. He can't. Mm-hmm. You can't afford to waste any time.
No.
So that's why I think by Thanksgiving, by November, maybe that's a decision made on a Marcus Johansson or a Freddie Gaudreau or a Philip Gustafsson, right? I mean, those 3 players, there needs to be decisions made as far as what their playing time goes, especially when you're keeping Jesper around, when you're keeping Liam Ogren around for the time being. Yep. That means you're obviously going to be assessing. And by Thanksgiving, you should have a fair assessment of where those guys are at. So that's why I think a new player will be brought into the fold by then, one way or another.
Well, and we all know that the long-held phrase or feeling in this sport that's been proven is if you are not in a playoff spot at what the Canadians call U.S. Thanksgiving, a lot of times you don't make it. Mm-hmm. So like that's if they, I mean, you're so right. They cannot afford a slow start. Mm-hmm. Like you can say, well, there's a lot of room left, but you know what? There was last year too. They couldn't make it up. So you are 1,000% correct. They have to get off to, if not a great start, they have to get off to at least a start that doesn't leave you saying, "Oh, okay, yeah, they're in trouble," and it's not Thanksgiving yet. So I agree.
You can't win the cup in October, but you sure as hell can lose it. So
oh yeah, we've seen that a lot. I like it. Age, what do you think?
All right, I'm gonna get this one out of the way right away because I don't want to have to be on the spot and try to think of another one when I think somebody else inevitably takes this. But I think at some point this season, a member of the Wild will waive a no-trade clause in order to be traded away from the team. Oh. There's a couple guys that I think fit this pretty well, the mold. Freddie Gaudreau, he has that modified no-trade clause. If somebody, they may ask, hey, are you able to budge on a certain team to make a move if you want to get, maybe higher up in the lineup, just a nightly basis type of thing. If Marcus Johansson doesn't kind of get back to that form that we've heard both Bill Guerin and John Hines talk about. I mean, we know he can play at a certain level, but how short is the leash there? I think that's maybe a gray area that we don't know about. They just say, hey, we're done with the Marcus Johansson experiment. They want to ship him off. And then he plays like a superstar because that would absolutely be what would happen. Or the one that Judd's alluded to, I think, a couple times this summer already, a Matt Zuccarello homecoming in New York. Maybe they do have that slow start that we're all fearing.
But yeah, I love that idea, but I don't know if they're going to trade him.
I don't think so either. But it's hot takes. It's bold predictions.
Oh
so
yeah,
that's my first one of
How dare you? How dare you, AJ?
I know. I'm going to get people. The comments are going to be a little fire, a little blaze.
Yeah, they're going to get to you on Twitter just like they got to me. So I'll stay on the same thread with this one. So in light of the fact that I think they really want Wallstedt to play, Fleury's in his, last year, presumably. I think to Jessi's date, I think Philip Gustafsson is traded by Thanksgiving. I think they hope he gets off to a good start. Because I mean, he's coming off a really disappointing year, and I don't think the Wild. I mean, Wallstedt, you can make the argument, well, he could use another year, but I mean, he's played in the Swedish Elite League, which is really good competition. He spent 2 years in Des Moines now. I don't know how much more there is to gain by being in the minors, but I also think that the Wild probably tried to trade Gus in the summer, and I mean, they probably were told, oh yeah, we'll take him for a ham sandwich. So I think they hope that he gets off to a good start. He appears to be, it looks like Jessi, in better shape. He certainly has a reason to be more motivated coming off a really bad year as opposed to a good year that he came off of going into training camp last year. So I think they move him by Thanksgiving and it becomes Wallstedt and Fleury and it's teacher-student, Mr. Miyagi, all works out great.
So in the trade back for Gus, it's not a goalie. You're looking at a winger or pick or something like that. You're thinking?
Pick maybe. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be asking for a ton. But my guess is that if they shopped him in the summer, teams were like, he's a goalie. Prices on, that's a hanky subject, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, Swayman got just paid, but a lot of guys don't. Gustafson's coming off a bad year. He wasn't in good shape. You knew that. So the rest of the league knew that. So, yeah, I could see them getting a pick back or a player back, but I think they at least consider it to be adequate compensation as opposed to in July, where it probably would have been almost like giving Gus away. So
I'm good by it.
All right.
Yeah.
Jess?
I'm gonna go happy. We're gonna go positive.
I got some happy ones too.
We're gonna slam dunk this one because this isn't one that anybody can really contest. Kirill Kaprizov's gonna score 50. That's right. He's going to get 50 goals. Kirill Kaprizov, 46 last year for him. I have no doubt about it. Not to mention going back to our original predictions, if Kirill scores 50, this is a playoff team, right? Because you're hoping you're still getting some of those lines generating, but Kirill can carry the brunt of that load. He's Kirill, right? I have very little doubt. I have all the faith in him, especially if you are going to put him back with Zuki. I think Marco Rossi is a very helpful piece there. I imagine you might even see Joel Eriksson once in a while. And the power play looks as good as ever. So I think Kirill, 50 goals, ladies and gents.
Can he get off to a better start? Because I think that's the one thing that's held him back. Again, it's the starts.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you go back to last year and Dean Evson, upon leaving the organization, had said, well, Kirill was hurt. That's why you saw him struggle. He was hurt. He hadn't really fully recovered. No qualms. I mean, it's so funny to watch Kirill Kaprizov be literally the last person off the ice. I mean, he just loves this game so much. He's always working on different techniques. I saw him working on batting the puck in and just scoring in all these different nitty gritty areas, right? I mean, it's incredible to watch. So I want the best for number 97 here and forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it.
I'll stick with the goal scoring predictions here. And I think that this season, the Wild will have multiple 40-plus goal scorers for the first time in franchise history. They've never done it before. We have the locked-in Kirill Kaprizov. And I'm with Jessi. I think 50, the 50 burger is in the cards for him.
Sure.
The other one, though, is tricky because Joel Eriksson, he had 30 last year. I don't know if he can actually get there. I'm going to fade him. The guy that I think is going to rise to the occasion is Matt Boldy.
I agree with this one.
He in 75 games last year, he had 29 goals, but that's 29 goals in a season in which we saw a distinct bookmark of he was kind of in and out of the play. Maybe the head games weren't there. And then there was a conversation. Something happened behind the scenes, and everything just seemed to click. Everything from there on out, this guy was a maniac. He was finding the back of the net. And just the comments I've heard from Bill Guerin and John Hines talking about like what he's done in the offseason. Bill Guerin thinks at one point in his career he's going to be a 50-50 type of guy where he scores 50, assists 50. Ooh. I don't know if 50's in the cards this year. I think 40 absolutely is. And when you look at like the sports books, they're expecting like 30 and a half is like where he's going to start. No, he's getting to 40, 40-plus goal scorers for the Minnesota Wild this year.
I like that one. I had 35, but I like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that, well, two things. One is if Ogren eventually replaces Johansson, I really like the potential. Eriksson, Boldy, Ogren. And then I also think that there is a case to be made at times that I would look to bump Boldy up with Kaprizov and Rossi on that first line. Just because I like Boldy's mentality more, especially like late in games that you're trailing by one, than Zucchi's, because Boldy's going to shoot more. But yeah, I like that. I think that, and he did seem to, somebody kicked that kid in the breezers, which I like. I mean, when you are making 49 sheets, when you are in the 49 sheets category, as Revo said, you got to pull your own. I could see that. I could see Kirill at like 52 and Boldy at 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't. And I think John Hines has unlocked that power. It was right after Dean Evason and after an absolutely atrocious game against the Chicago Blackhawks that there was not a conversation. It was a yelling situation, a yelling discussion, I'm pretty sure, filled with explicitives because it was a terrible game, right?
Yeah,
I still remember how bad it was. And I think Boldy recognized that, because you're right. You're making too much money. You are a prominent pillar in the future of this team that, yeah, you should be striving for 40. Yes. So I like it, Age.
And you can't have another power forward in franchise history fail you. Seriously, Greenway. I mean, unfortunately, the Wild never truly maximized Coyle.
No.
Like, I always thought Charlie was going to be great here, and he was good here, but he wasn't great here.
They got rid of Tuck, I think, before you really could have a...
Oh, they traded
way
Tuck.
too
Buffalo
soon.
has Greenway and Tuck on the same line.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it against the Devils in Prague last weekend?
Yeah.
I think they got Tuck is he one of their associate captains as well?
Oh, I'm sure he is.
He's a Buffalo kid, I think, right? Aren't they both from New York?
That was a terrible trade. That Tuck trade was because Tuck's wired right. He's a son of a buck.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a nice guy.
The problem with Coyle is you never gave him enough consistency to ever actually achieve much at all, right? You were moving him all over the place. And he's doing pretty good in Boston.
Oh, he's doing really well. I also don't feel like he got pushed enough here. I think the infrastructure of the Bruins, Marchand, Bergeron, right?
Mm.
Like, I think those guys are like, dude, no screwing around here. And here it was more of a judgmental club than actually like a club with real captains, or to Age's point, associate captains.
Yeah.
All right, here's mine. Positive Judd here. I'm going to, if I'm going to have the Wild in a playoff position, things are going to need to go well. So, Jared Spurgeon will be the NHL comeback player of the year. There's a lot of good candidates here. There's a lot of good guys who are trying to bounce back. But Jared Spurgeon, I think, is going to, knock on wood, stay healthy. I think his legs look great. So Jared Spurgeon is going to be your NHL comeback player of the year.
I'm trying to think of who are some of the other candidates for it this year, Judd.
I found a whole list. Taylor Hall in Chicago is coming back.
Okay.
I saw another. There was an athletic story about potential comeback players of the year, and Spurgeon was in the also ran guys, like the also potential. But I think he's going to have a good year. I think he's going to come back. To Jesse's longtime point, he and Jake are great together. Jared's presence, at least up until now, has lifted Middleton's play pretty consistently. So, like, if those two pair up like we know that they can, I think Jared Spurgeon wins that award.
All right. Well, I think that means that you're also betting on him staying healthy then too. So
that's what I'm saying.
Which I would love to see.
They're not going to make the playoffs unless they do. Like,
yeah.
if they lose guys, and I mean this is true of lots of teams. If they lose, I mean, if Foligno goes out again and now Spurgeon's out, it becomes a real uphill climb. But I mean, you can't assume health, but I also don't think it's probably fair to assume injury. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about Spurgeon just because of what he's coming off of. But if he's truly back, he's going to make a difference. And now your top four defensemen, you're pretty damn good there. Your top two pairings are good. Really good, right,
yeah.
Jessi?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I don't even hate Declan Chisholm. Yesterday, you had Declan Chisholm rotating in and out. I think Jake Middleton is waiting for a baby to arrive. So I think that's part of that reason. But I mean, I don't even hate Chisholm and Bogosian as your bottom pair, right? Like,
no.
Defensively, I think they're fine.
Is John Merrill going to play?
I don't know.
Maybe not too much.
I don't think so. Probably not too much.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where I would
Because
pinpoint him at.
I think it's fair to say that Bogosian's solid. Like,
Yeah.
like he's not a star, but he's solid. And Chisholm definitely has upside that I'd like to see. And that does strike me as a decent third pairing because you've got a guy who can be the stay-at-home veteran guy, and you got the kid that can move the puck more. So I think there's potential there. But yeah, Spurgeon being back and playing consistently, I think is a potentially a huge boost. So, Jessi, your third and final.
It kind of segues into my third and final, which I don't want. Again, we don't need to read too much into it, but I think Damon Hunt is going to get at least 30 games played. Now, in order for Damon Hunt to jump up into the Minnesota Wild roster, that would induce an injury to somebody back on the blue line. I'm not saying it's Jared Spurgeon. It was just a nice segue into this. Damon Hunt, fantastic training camp once again, has seen glimpses of the NHL. I just think he's really ready. He's really there. There's no question he is your first recall once an injury goes down on the blue line. John Hines even said he's another guy they wanted to keep around. They couldn't because of a numbers game. So I think Damon Hunt, you're going to see a lot of him this year, which means I think there might be an injury that could come along. It's going to happen.
Oh,
it's
God,
hockey.
yeah.
It's a season.
Yeah.
And I could
Absolutely.
be to anybody, but I just,
So
Damon
he's first
Hunt,
guy up.
I want to see. Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Okay. I'm going to end mine on a good note, and I think by the end of Game 82 against the Ducks on April 15th, the Wild's penalty kill success percentage will be 80% or higher.
Ooh.
Wow.
Now, 80% is, I think that's above average. That wouldn't have been necessarily elite last year. 80% on the dot would have had you 12th best in the league.
You take it.
But a jump from 74.5% to 80 is a massive improvement.
Yes.
And that's going to put you in a lot better positions to actually win some of these games here. Like a handful of games, you're going to swing a couple more points your way. And this was the one for me that I think swung me on going from not a playoff team to a playoff team. I'm putting a lot of faith in the Wild's PK, and just having a little more success there up to that 80% is going to get a handful of extra points, and that's going to be the deciding factor of actually sneaking in to that second wild card spot for the playoffs.
Absolutely. How much do you think, just off that point, how much do you think is based on the PK actually improving substantially, and then the goaltending? Because like that's the one thing we probably crapped on the PK guys too much. They weren't good, but I mean the goaltending last year was very, very flimsy at best. So, like, if you were to give me percentages, how much do you think is flat out just the goaltenders being your best penalty killer, which is the old cliche, and then the system itself being changed and the guys on the PK being more competent, including the expectation that Matt Boldy is going to kill penalties now?
Mm-hmm.
I would say like 60-40, maybe 65-35. The goalie portion, I think it should be improved, but it also is dependent on the players in front of them, putting them in a position to be successful in the penalty kill. That's driving the puck here to the outsides, taking away those passing and shooting lanes. And I feel like that wasn't as regular as like some of the people that the teams that had 80 plus, those guys are relentless on the penalty kill. They don't care about taking one, off the rib, off the shin. They are getting in front of all these shots.
Pay the price.
But also they're playing that pesky, they're just pests because they're constantly on the puck carrier. The Wild just really weren't doing that a lot of last year. So the goaltending, I think, is going to have to be an improvement, and I think it will, but it's also on the people in front of them, just setting them up for success.
I like that a lot because, yes, if they improve that definitely ups your chances of being a playoff team. And Jessi, is the coach or is the assistant head coach or assistant coach in charge of the PK? Is that Jack Capuano?
Yes, Jack.
Okay, who's new, who played in the league for a long time. And so Boldy, here's what I'm curious about. If Boldy is truly going to kill penalties, and it sounds like that's the plan, can they generate offense from the PK as well?
I think that's what their goal is to look at that. I mean,
idea.
I think it makes sense because they were doing a little bit of that. I mean, Connor Dewar was a part of that too, right? Like, I think they can do it. So why not?
Well,
but
and I just, if you don't try, you're so passive.
Right.
Like, I hate when you sit back and allow the opponent to dictate everything, and then you're back, and then you're dropping back farther, and then there's a shot on goal, and Fleury gets screened, and now you got a goal or something like that. So, all right, my third and final is actually going to be sponsored by our friends at Padres Brewing. And Age, if you could put up the graphic, because Jessi, we want to invite you to Purple Daily Unplugged at Padres, October 21st, a Monday night. In fact, there are, I believe, not one but two Monday Night Football games that will be on the TVs that night. But before then, from 5 to 7 p.m., Purple Daily Unplugged. We did this once before. It's a ton of fun. We take your questions live. The show is recorded and then distributed as a podcast, but it is more of an in-house experience. It'll be Declan, it'll be me, it'll be Mackie. The thing is, it's free to attend, but you must register to attend. Just go to scorenorth.com/Padres, scorenorth.com/Padres. It is located in the old Lando Nod factory at the corner of Broadway and Central Avenues Northeast. So come join us. You also get a beer glass and enjoy one beer. I would recommend the red. Padres, absolutely outstanding. So come join us. Register for the event today. Again, no charge. All you have to do is put your name in, and we will make plans for you to be there. All right, my last one is this. Liam Ogren will be a top 6 player in the Wild rotation by November 15th. That might be a little bit optimistic, but anyway, he will be, I firmly believe. I mean, they've kept him. They didn't keep him to scratch him. I think that this is as close to of an indictment against Johansson as you can get. Like, I don't think that they probably would want to go to Leopold and say, yeah, we screwed the pooch here. But I also think that there is the recognition. Like, I love the fact that Ogren fully admits, Jessi, he got off to a bad start in camp. Hines pulled him aside and said, dude, settle down, quit worrying, quit thinking, just play. And then he flipped a switch and did exactly that. Another guy who's gotten a lot of good experience overseas, certainly looked the part when he did get a chance in a limited role with the Wild late last season. So I think Liam Ogren, you guys, is a top 6 forward by, let's say, November 15th, Jess.
I like it. I'm glad I left that one on the table for you, because I was going to say the same exact thing. Because it feels, I mean, we asked John Hines this, like, do you keep him around if he's not going to play in a top 6 role? He is a top 6 guy. That's been kind of the holdback, because where do you put him if you don't want him to play in the bottom? The thing I need to remind people, Marcus Johansson isn't going to be your 2016, 2017 Marcus Johansson ever again. He has not ever replicated that, even when he's had these bounce back years. Like, it's funny, even watching him throughout camp, it's like he kind of is what he is at this point. There isn't going to be that resurgence that we all want to joke and say, oh, it's a contract year, he's going to do this. His contract he's playing for might be over in Sweden. We don't know. I mean, he's just kind of at that level of play, which is where that frustration tends to escalate a little bit. But yeah, I think you can make that call pretty quickly. By November, I love having Liam Ogren in that top 6. I don't see why not.
And I also think so. The thing about Marcus that drove me nuts is, first of all, you're right. Like, the Johansson that existed in his, in air quotes, prime is gone. Now the problem is he got here a couple of years ago in a trade, was playing for a contract and actually worked his butt off. He still wasn't great, but he worked hard, and it's like, okay, I can handle that. And now I think the question is, does this serve as, hey, I got to work again, or we don't know, but Ogren is the future. Like, that's the nice thing. So and Jessi, to your point, guys are going to get hurt. They always do. A guy on the third line. I mean, Marcus Foligno, very unfortunately, because he's a great guy, could be breaking down. Like, there's always something. So if he goes out, do you bump Johansson to the third line, Ogren up to the second line? Like, there's a lot of things that are going to work themselves out. You don't have room for a lot of guys, especially your good guys, to get hurt, but it's naive to think that nobody gets hurt. So I think there's a lot of ways here, but I would feel pretty damn good about a top 6 of Zuccarello, Kaprizov, Rossi, Boldy, Eriksson, Ek, Ogren. Like, that would make me feel pretty good. And I just think that there is a way to make that work probably at some point.
I think the big question there is November 15th, is that too late for him to then still be able to go and win the Calder? Over
No.
Michkov, Celebrini, Stankhoven,
well,
they're going to get
Michkov's going to be Michkov
Lane
a
might be
month head
special.
start.
Lane Hudson, baby. So good.
People are going to be up in arms when Stankhoven wins it at the age of like, what? How old is he? Feels like he's like 28
It's like,
now.
Who?
yeah.
Logan
is?
Stankhoven with the Stars.
He can't,
He's-
right?
No, he's eligible. He's going
He
to,
can.
it's this, yeah.
Oh, I thought there was an age cutoff.
Yeah, he's still
He's
fits
still
within it.
young. Yeah.
What's
He's
the
still
age cutoff?
25. I think it's 25, isn't it?
25.
That was
Yeah.
the knock on Kaprizov.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bunch of crap. Michkov is going to win this. But
He's going to put up like 40 in his rookie
hey,
year.
just last thing. What is your what is your thought or your observation about? And it was Hines said this would happen, so it's not a shock. But I'd be curious to get your take about Hartman being on the first line for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and then Rossi being promoted from the third line to the first line. What do you think took place there that gets Rossi the place for opening night between Zuccarello and Kaprizov?
I think Rossi deserves it. I think he got kind of lost in between Trennan and Foligno, right? I mean, those are just two big body guys that
I hated
can't
that.
keep up with him, can't keep up with the playmaking ability. And Ryan Hartman, on the flip side, can keep up with the top line. Like, he's shown that he was able to do that, which was good. But why not have a solid, gritty third line all together with Ryan Hartman? So I don't think I love that John Hines, and he did say that he was going to play around with the lines. Like, everybody gets so hellbent on like, oh, this is what it's going to be. John Hines isn't Dean Evson in that sense. John Hines will change things if it needs to be changed. Now, again, is Rossi going to stay there forever? Probably not. It's time will tell, but I think that was just what it is. It just, he didn't fit. You tried to make it work.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. And
right. Like if Eck bumps up, I'm like, okay, I get that. I just don't think Hartman, I think you're exactly right. Third line, gritty guy. I don't need him to score 30 goals.
Right.
Like, I'm not looking for that. That felt like a fluke. But I mean, I think if you go between, like, if they make a change and Rossi gets bumped down to the second line and Eck goes up to the first line, I can accept that.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, so I was just curious if there was like a thought process, but that does make perfect sense because those two wings it did seem weird. Like those are two just grinding wings. And here's a playmaking undersized.
Well, and Rossi's out there
center.
creating space, but for what? You know what I mean? Like what are we creating space for?
Come on in, boys. I got it all
Come on,
cleared out.
Shannon.
Cleared it out.
The water's
Back
perfect.
it up.
Anyway. All right, the season is here. Again, the Wild opens against Columbus on Thursday. We will be back with another episode this week, possibly post-game, after the Blue Jackets game on Thursday. Jessi, of course, joins us on the Tuesday show for all of the big picture talk on Judd's Hockey Show. Enjoy the start of the season.